My name's Eliza, I'm 27 and I'm a media assistant and a journalist living in Sydney. And I was diagnosed with eczema and psoriasis when I was 2 years old. So it was the kind of general, being a little kid, skin conditions are pretty normal around that age. I was told that I would grow out of it. So it's been one of the memories that I've always had because I never actually grew out of having eczema and psoriasis. And it was this thing of not knowing how it went from being something that was really easy to manage when I was a kid to something that when I was a teenager became almost impossible to manage. So we relied a lot on creams and a lot on just regular doctor visits. And I didn't really know that there was any other different way of treating this. I thought, I'll be using steroid creams for the rest of my life. Everything I've been using to treat my skin conditions ever since I was a kid has stopped working and I have no idea what to do. I got in touch with a local doctor, and the moment that I said, I've been using creams for 10 years, she looked so shocked and was just like, I'm gonna have to stop you there. That's not normal and there's actually a better way. So that was definitely the big turning point, thankfully. She got me in touch with a dermatologist. It was the first time I'd been to a dermatologist in my entire life. And he got me onto DMARDs. So they bring down my immune system just a little bit so that my body reacts just a little bit less strongly when I'm exposed to things that might irritate my skin, or if I'm stressed and have a flare up, it's a little bit more manageable. And I think if I hadn't had that moment with the GP getting me in touch with the dermatologist, I would never have gotten my skin conditions under control the way they are now. At the moment, I'm in the middle of a flare-up, but you can't really tell. My eyes are really itchy at the moment, but it's actually really well managed and I haven't had to miss work or miss doing anything with friends. All I need to do is just remember to take my weekly medication on time and then use some much gentler topical creams to manage the symptoms rather than try to treat a long-term problem with a lot of short-term solutions. Now I know that it's something that I'll have for the rest of my life, but I can live with it without it ruining my life. I feel really lucky actually to have found the treatment path that I have and to have the kind of care team in place where I feel like I'm very informed about what my options are, and I feel like I've got a plan not just for the next kind of few months, but kind of the next 6 or 7 or 10 years. For anyone who is, a young person out in the world, in my case, I was at uni, I was working in the city, so I was out of the house a lot, and to get up at the start of your day and have to cover yourself head to toe in moisturizer to figure out whether or not it would make your skin better or worse to try to cover up a flare-up with makeup, and going through all those mental jumps just to get out the door and on the bus to class on time was definitely a very real burden that I just thought was something I'd have to deal with forever. When it would escalate into really serious flare-ups, I found it really difficult to work. I felt really ashamed and hidden at home and not gone out to dinners or not gone out to the beach or for a walk with friends because I didn't really want them to see me in this way, and I thought, they're gonna think that I look like a total freak right now, or because I'm scratching, especially on my scalp when it gets itchy, I'll be sitting in public going, and I don't want someone to think I've got nits when it's actually like I'm in so much pain and it's so itchy. But knowing that my friends, firstly, couldn't care less what state I show up in, they're just happy that I show up. And secondly, that they're willing to, go above and beyond to make sure that I'm okay is really special. Like having that support group, I think, is crucial for anyone with a chronic illness of any sort. The whole diagnosis has had a pretty big impact on my confidence when I was younger. But I think now, as someone who's a little bit older and has really embraced that it is here for the long run, you can't beat yourself up over the things you can't control. You can manage it, you can treat it, and I think reducing the stress helps reduce the flare-ups, helps reduce the severity of it. So if I just roll with it and go, all right, today I'm going out into the world with a red rash around my mouth, that's just what's happening. And turns out most people don't really care. Getting a diagnosis and hearing that it was normal and that there were actually solutions felt like such a relief. Waiting until I was 25 to even think about going to a dermatologist. If I knew what a difference it would make sooner, I would have done it when I was 15. To hear someone just say like, this is okay, there are lots of things we can do to try to help make it better. And if one thing doesn't work out, we have 100 more things that you can try. And we'll keep working until we find a care program that works for you. I would say to anyone who's considering, like, highly recommend fighting for a proper diagnosis and a proper meeting with a dermatologist, and to find dermatologists who are highly recommended. And if it weren't for those individuals just saying, yep, go out and seek a diagnosis, go out and seek a different treatment method, push to have an appointment booked sooner rather than later because you shouldn't have to suffer through this on your own. I owe them a huge debt of gratitude for helping get that process started. Day to day, managing my conditions now that I'm on long-term medication isn't really beyond just the basics of keeping my skin moisturized. I have this great 3-litre bottle of moisturizer that I always have around, and it's always first thing in the morning and just before bed. Just lather on moisturizer to keep my skin healthy. Very lucky that my quality of life and my activities are completely unaffected now, which is very, very rare, I'm learning, and very, very special that I can just take this medication once a week, feel a bit tired the next day, and as soon as that, it's back to normal, back to swimming, back to hiking, back to gardening, and you wouldn't actually know that I have a skin condition unless you looked really close to find a few of the patches that are on my skin that are a bit red. Medication has been the game changer for me. I can say, because I've tried it, going unmedicated and treating my skin conditions does not work, full stop. I went for 3 months completely medication free and my skin got very, very angry. I can see the point of these existing. I can see why this weekly DMARD does what it does, and I can see why topical creams do what they do, and how together they can actually make a really sustainable solution that means I'm not reliant too much on one thing, and I can move forward with a really minimal impact on my body long term, which is really important, but also I can move forward without flare-ups. There's hope for whether your psoriasis is really severe to, if you're lucky enough like me to have something that's really mild when it's under control, there is always hope. There are all sorts of clinical trials going on, all sorts of new medications being brought up, all sorts of ones ending up being supported by government to make it more accessible to people, which is incredible to see. And so what might not exist now, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, could be a new treatment that helps people even more. Probably the biggest gain in starting my treatment and having a diagnosis was being able to go swimming again. I really, really love swimming, but before I was treating my skin conditions very well, going to a chlorine pool, you'd come out, you'd have a quick rinse, and the next day my skin would be in agony because I didn't know how important it was to just simply moisturize after getting out of the water. And with the added bonus of living at the beach, I'm going for a swim with all these lovely minerals in the water, and there's all this research that backs up swimming in salt water being really great for skin conditions and really great for stress as well, which contributes to flare-ups. So being able to go for a swim after work or on the weekend and just completely relax, I think has been a huge gain in having my treatment plan kind of sorted. Gardening's definitely another one. I'm able to really enjoy getting stuck in on my little balcony, digging up all the different plants, putting in seeds, checking on the plants, not having huge reactions to things, and also being able to enjoy growing my own herbs from my tiny balcony. It's a huge reward. Walking is definitely probably my personalized mental health treatment plan, really. I really like being able to go through the world at my own pace and enjoy the views and stop if I want and keep walking if I need to keep going on to get to work, for example. I'd say my skin conditions and my mental health are completely linked together. There's no way to separate the two, and I think for a lot of people who have psoriasis, they'll know if you get stressed, the chances of a flare-up are really high. If you feel sad, the chances of flare-up are really high. Any strong emotion can turn into something showing up in your skin, which can be really stressful, and then it makes the flare-up worse, and you just slowly keep escalating until you're at the point where you're just in agony. So being able to manage my mental health and keep my stress levels low, whether that means going for a walk or going for a swim, or just accepting that, all right, this is what's going on right now, I can't do anything to change it, has really helped. Seeing that it's not as uncommon as I thought has actually really helped, because I'm able often to stop it in its tracks. I can hear that feedback loop starting in my head as I go, oh, I'm starting to flare up. Am I having a flare up because I'm stressed, or am I stressed because I'm flaring up? I don't know, but now I'm stressed and now I'm flaring up, and I'm stressed and I'm flaring up, and it's getting worse. And just taking a moment to just stop and realize what's happening. It is always worth pushing for the best possible treatment plan for you. It's always worth seeing if there's a second opinion, finding another specialist who might be able to give you a different angle or a different diagnosis even to what you thought something may be. We're really lucky in Australia to have such a broad range of specialists and a whole bunch of GPs who are starting to specialise in skin. So I think constantly advocating for yourself, because you know what you need. You are your best advocate. You have friends and family around you to support you, and they can help you slowly but surely move towards a life where you can achieve things on your own terms, with the support and care team, both medically and socially, to help you really move forward in hopefully a really positive way.